Hello, everybody. My name is Kirsty Williams, and you're listening live to the Historical Voices from the East Side. This is a podcast where we talk about all of the latest news that happened this week, but as well as also we do a movie review at the very end, and we talk about how that relates to our modern day society. With that, I am with my co-host on the actual stream over there. If you are looking at this side over here, there's this guy. He's looking down. He got a Phoenix Suns hat, even though he's from Detroit, Michigan. He
I
is
live in
our East.
Phoenix.
He is our East Side movie reviewer. Give a big shout out to the homie Jamel Watson. And also, we have our next host as well. He is our voice of reason at the very bottom over here. He's a voice actor and our voice of reason. Give a big shout outs to Jonathan, aka JT the Voice. So, how y'all gentlemen doing today?
Not too shabby.
Not too shabby. What about you, JT?
All right.
All right. Okay. Fair enough. Fair enough. With that, man, we are in midweek when it comes to well, no, almost next week will be midweek for our actual Women's Month when it comes to films. We picked a couple of movies out, so we did with actual female leads, just to kind of show appreciation to female led films. But right before we always start every movie session, we either do an East Side review or I said what I said. With that, we do actually have an East Side review. So, Jamel, lead us off. Tell us what our East Side review is this week.
Really quickly, gonna give y'all a couple thoughts on latest release from this past weekend, which is Creed 3, the latest entry in the Rocky franchise, the ninth film in the Rocky franchise. Creed 3, follow up to, no, this is a spoiler, follow up to Creed 2. It follows the retirement of the main character Adonis Creed and the reintroduction of an old friend, someone who is damn near like a brother to him. The movie is actually pretty damn good, in my opinion. Michael B. Jordan does his thing. Tessa Thompson, if you only remember her from the recent Marvel movies, you will have forgotten that she can actually act her ass off. She was pretty damn good in this one. Felicia Rashad, always good seeing Wood Harris, but as he was last month in Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumanium, the star of the show was your boy Jonathan Major as Diamond Dame Anderson, the brother turned rival of Adonis Creed. He was extraordinary. Fights were pretty damn good in this one, brutal as hell. The last one was uniquely shot. I said it in my review on my own channel, that it's probably, and I can even take the probably out, it's the most uniquely staged fight in the Rocky franchise. Definite anime vibes to it. Michael B. Jordan and Jonathan Majors, both nerds who like anime, like your boy right here. So you can tell the influence that it had on that particular fight in the end. Overall, I think it is the first, in my opinion, the first winner of 2023, the first solid winner of 2023. Good action, good acting, and in my opinion, some damn good fights and drama. So yeah, if you are looking for a movie to check out this weekend, definitely go see Creed 3. But another joint that could be on the horizon that could be good is Scream 6. So look out next week for my little East Side review of Scream 6.
Awesome sauce, man. With that, this dude, this dude. All right. So we actually had a pretty fucking busy week with everything that happened. We officially, I kind of want to knock this out really quickly. We officially got a response back from Chris Rock as of the slap. That came out with his Netflix special. Marlon Wayans came out with his Netflix special as well. Um, I need to see Scream One first. Goddamn. Um, so Marlon Wayans came out with his actual Netflix special as well, and it's called God Loves Me. I recommend watching this one because the last comedy special that actually happened was pretty fucking gnarly. That was the one that he did in the middle of the park as well. But we actually had a couple of other things. One of the biggest things that actually I would say, I know that we had a lot of other news, but I would say, gentlemen, is actually John Bernthal is coming back for a Daredevil film as the Punisher. So we're gonna start off with I'll say what I said with this one. I'm gonna start off with Jamel. Jamel.
No, I've spoken a lot already.
Oh
JT
no.
kick things off.
This question was meant for you.
You can answer a question, bro.
You can answer a
Okay.
question.
All right, go ahead.
So the question is this. So will Disney uphold the same brutality that Netflix brought in? Sorry, will Disney uphold the same brutality that Netflix initially brought in with the actual MCU? Because this is actually a character, both him and Daredevil, who actually were kind of really fucking like definitely not MCU ready when it comes to the actual product itself. So my question to you is: do you think that Disney will uphold the same characteristics in these characters as Netflix did in the initial filming for Daredevil as well as Punisher?
Honestly, I'm not overly confident. That's the worry that I have with them trying to integrate stuff from the Netflix with Daredevil or Luke Cage or with Jessica Jones. Nobody gives a shit about Iron Fist. Is the fact that they might have to
True.
Disneyfy and tone down the levels of intensity that these characters had. That was like if you remember Daredevil season 2, the Electra hand bullshit. Nah, that's not what people care about. It was the Punisher and how raw, how visceral his ass was. It's kind of it's the fear that I had with Kingpin when he was in the Hawkeye show making this dude a jabroni, and it's just like, he is one of the best villains that they've ever had in the MCU, and I'm hoping, I was hoping that they wouldn't bitch him out, and I mean, I don't have high hopes. Like honestly, I don't know if PG-13 Punisher can work in this day and age. We did get a good version of the Punisher in the '90s Spider-Man cartoon. That was actually pretty decent. But cartoons was a little bit grimier back then on Saturday morning, so you could get away with a little bit more. But I'm just not confident that Disney is going to fully allow John Bernthal to be that same brutal ass whooping Punisher that he was in the Netflix shows. Hey, I would love to be proven wrong, but as far as I'm concerned, I have doubts, and Disney's earned my doubts.
Fair enough. Actually, you finished that right before your timer went off, man. Yeah, he said what he said, like in a minute and 30 seconds, man. Um, PG-13 Doctor Strange horror movie didn't work, so I don't know. That's what.
That's
So
the
the
thing.
problem is the PG-13 movies are more marketable because you got a wider audience. You are cutting off all of the children from going to an R-rated movie without an adult. So I've realized this when I read a headline and this is a subsequent article about how Bruce Almighty beat out the Matrix sequel. And it was because of they just had a wider net, a wider audience. You had to have been exposed to an R-rated movie. Back in 2000, that wasn't as easy as you might think. It ain't just on like TV or streaming these days. But movies like The Punishers, the first two that they made before they came out with the series, those were R-rated. Blade was R-rated, and these are Marvel characters, both of them. The problem is, I think you got a lot of comic book characters that are too real for TV. They are about a different type of lifestyle than Disney even wants you to think about. And so Disney has to balance, ooh, look, we giving you, a little taste. But then they also have to balance their audience because they're trying to make PG-13 stuff that's marketable to everybody. And how you gonna give Daredevil's penance stare to somebody, who had a bad life? How you actually gonna accurately portray that? Not nearly as intense as it could be in other mediums.
You know what? This is, and don't want to linger on this too much, but this is one of those things that I'm actually kind of fascinated with what James Gunn is doing at DC, because DC doesn't have, and Warner Brothers doesn't have the sheen or the label of family friendly. They can kind of get away with a little bit more stuff, and it's one of the properties that they're that's in development. The Authority. It is brutal, it's violent, and it's also a really well done comic. And if that's like, yeah, I'm hoping that that's quality. Like if they make that quality, get good quality writers, everybody, that can be a really dope project, because it's something that Disney literally cannot do. They can only go but so far with the edginess and the hardcore stuff, and this just further makes me worried about what we're gonna see with PG-13 Blade when that movie comes out. It just makes me further worried. Like, I don't know.
Well, I'm curious though, because of the fact that like we had Prey that came out. Obviously Hellraiser came out, but from what I remember, Prey wasn't PG-13. Am I correct? Prey was rated R.
Yeah, Prey was, but you got
That
to
is
think about this. They're not. I'm not confident that they'll be willing to put one of the MCU movies, the movies that they make and rely on to make so much money, make that R-rated. Now they did that for Werewolf by Night. They made
correct.
that one a little bit harder, but for something that they plan on a lot of people watching, especially families watching, I really don't have confidence that they'll allow people to be as grimy as they can be.
Okay. Well, cool. Because technically, JT, you already answered my question. I was going to bring to you about the PG-13 rating.
Well, let's get
I'm gonna actually ask you a different question, man. Do you think that because the announcement was that they were going to actually do more rated R movies, or I guess you would say small films, kind of like Werewolf by Night? Do you think that, and it's supposed to be a yearly thing every Halloween? Do you think that those will be the catalyst to actually move into an actual rated R film eventually?
you saying it like it hasn't happened before, though. You know what I'm saying?
Well, it hasn't happened from on a Disney perspective, though, technically. So, I mean, that's what I'm asking. Like, do you think that they will really deep down and then have a fucking like Daredevil beating the piss out of somebody and then throwing a crucifix in somebody's eye just randomly? Going into
No, ain't Deadpool Disney these days?
well, the first two wasn't Disney though; it was a Fox.
They were, yeah. But I mean, if they want to have another movie, they know what needs to be done. They're not PG-13 in Deadpool unless it would be the most meta thing ever. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Which
That
could
could
be
actually
done
be
well
funny.
if you make it funny enough. You know what I mean? But like, I don't know. I don't think that this breaking the fourth wall stuff hits the same with real people as it did, with animation. It's hard to say what Disney's going to do because Disney wants to make money. They don't care about making good films anywhere near as much as they care about making money. And it's depressing to me to see all these good IPs sitting on the shelf because Disney's scared to show some blood, show some carnage. You know what I mean? So Disney going to do whatever makes them the most money.
So,
That's
yeah. So one of the things that also that happened this week was Tyler Perry is reportedly in talks with Paramount to buy a majority stake in BET. No, all right.
I mean, good
sounds
for him.
about right.
Good for him, but cool.
Wouldn't you prefer black entertainment be done by black people instead
Yeah.
of owned by not, like, come on. Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm okay
but
with
I intentionally wrote
House of Pain coming back. House of Pain, another season
all
is
day
coming back.
marathons, y'all.
Kidding me? House of Pain is gonna be on BET in rotation like Baby Boy used to be. Like Good Times is on
on 3
TV
times
on.
in a row on the weekends, man.
Bruh.
Man, House of Pain is on all the time. The crazy thing is like House of Pain is the only time BET House of Pain is the only reason why my in-laws play that channel on TV at all. Is because of like the House of Pain. That's the only time BET is like on their channel. Is because of House of Pain.
I ain't watched
That
it like
show
that.
is.
Is it good?
I got confused by the show, and not because it's like something meta or like deep writing. I was thrown off with like some of the creative choices. Like I watched it literally in like 1 year, and then the following year so much stuff was just weirdly different. Like one of the kids went from being in middle school to like height to college age within the span of a year, and the mom was a crackhead out of nowhere. Like that shit, like that plot came out of nowhere, and it's a surprisingly weird and confusing show. But hey, it does numbers, and
Yeah.
Tyler Perry has made money off of it, so salute to him. Shout out to him. Give him a round of applause. But hey,
Well, from what I remember, the mom's always been a crackhead. That's why the house got caught on fire, and that's why they had to move inside of their old parents' house. Is Ella and Curtis's house. So that she's always been a crackhead. The weird part about it is the fact that
all right, Judge Mathis.
oh no. This is the weird and the funniest part about it is the fact that like the kids stayed at the Curtis's house, the Payne's house, but we haven't seen anything from the son and the wife pretty much in a couple of years now, at least from what I remember.
Is that
So
show
that's
still
pretty.
on?
Yes, you mean I think it is. I've been seeing some like a couple stuff. I seen Jasmine had a boyfriend at one point in time. It was a couple of things. So when did it
We got
officially
this
when did it
handy
officially stop?
dandy Google machine that's right here. House of Pain ran for 333 episodes. Original
God,
run
no.
was from '06 to 2012, and there's a revival series currently on BET that's been running since 2020. So yes, fucking House of Pain is still on. God damn, Jesus
Still
Christ,
bringing the noise after all this time.
G Money still on that. That is
And they just
literally the G
So
Money. Like
so
Tyler Perry could have came in and be like, "Look, y'all, you know, if I own it, how much cheaper is it going to be to buy these streaming rights?"
nigga.
You know what I'm
Can we
saying?
talk about
Like,
for a
so
second
but
Alan Payne? Like Alan Payne, dude was G Money in New Jack City. He could, why, what he could have been. He was in Jason's Lyric. Dude could have been so much bigger. I don't know what happened. Who he pissed off? Like he pissed off
so
somebody in Hollywood, and that just halted his nigga. You are forever with Tyler Perry. And look,
yeah.
the check
yeah.
is probably steady, but dog, he could have been. He could have been light skinned Wesley if he wanted to.
Oh my god. You know, I ain't gonna talk about Alan Payne because like I guess my best role for him has been him playing in CB4. That was like that was like my best role for him at one point in time. I felt like Jason Lyric. I felt like Boki was one of the few people that act circles around it, but I couldn't trust that dude at all.
Okay. Evil Dave Chappelle.
the Dave Chappelle. So my real question is this: do you feel like BT would ever go back to being a music network? I remember that was a wild thing. Thinking that BT used to be
My
a
nigga.
music network at one point in time. So
All right, they'll
I
do that
believe this. I'm
once
telling everybody.
once MTV does that. Like they'll do it at the same time, and that shit's not happening for either network. Like honestly, the concept of a music television network with music videos all day, it's redundant and it's useless because we got this little thing called YouTube, and
Oh my god.
that's it. Like it's over.
Oh
Dream is
man.
over. Now MTV could play some shit that's not ridiculousness. That would help. That probably help, but that shit draw ratings. So that's the White House of Pain. That's basically what it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah. Oh my god. Yeah. All right. What about you, JT? Do you think it would ever happen?
Again, these people don't care about art; they care about money. And until you get somebody in there that cares about the artists, you're not going to see it. Tyler Perry might be that dude, though. You know what I'm saying? Because he's been known to put some people on and be like, "Come to my lot, shoot your movie." You know what I'm saying? So any change is probably better than no change over there. But let's hope so. Because I miss the days of coming over to somebody's house and watching 3-4 music videos. Like I never watched music videos.
Yeah.
So people always like, oh, and in a music video. I was like, dog, I had an album. What you talking about music video? Tell me more. Back in my day, you would have the CD, and then the CD would have a music video on it, but just like one.
Yeah. Yeah. See, that's what I'm saying, because like I remember, like I do remember BET Uncut. I remember all those things, and I felt like music videos used to make a question for a lot of shit. I.e. again, BET Uncut.
The Tip Drill video.
Tip Drill video put fucking BET Uncut out of business. And the crazy thing is, everybody thought that Nelly was the sexist one, but really it was the girl who the credit card was sliding down it. It was her idea for it to even happen. And the reason being because of the fact that she was a marketing major. And she said that you want to really get some people to talk about your shit. Take a credit card, slide it down. And she was right. She nailed that shit. Happy Women's Month. With that.
Hell of a thing.
Happy Women's History Month. So
they call him XD. Is not happy with some of the question choices that we've had so far.
Oh man!
So history, give us a good one.
No, because I know what he wants to talk about, man, and I'm gonna leave him alone. I'll joke with you, XD. XD, if you got a question, man, you can write something in.
Hey, XD, did you ever watch the movie Pain and Gain? What did you think about that?
Oh God, don't even do that. Don't do that right now.
Pain and Gain almost caused the show to end last week.
It wasn't that bad. Oh my God.
Pain and Gain is so tough.
Somebody was giving so much pushback about watching this movie, and the movie is funny.
All right, cool.
Then the shit evolved.
Defend The Rock's acting career and acting choices.
Why?
I need you to defend that. Let's move on to the next question.
You asking two different questions.
You're getting mad about the wrong things, the wrong things.
Right, the movie was
hell yeah, this is my shit. Keep going.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles just announced. They just put out a trailer and a poster. It's kind of wild because the cast is pretty much like
Jackie Chan is Master Splinter. John Cena is fucking Rocksteady.
Bebop,
you got Seth Rogen as Bebop. Like dog. Ninja Turtles is my shit. Ninja Turtles is my shit. I'm ready. Let's go.
All right.
Fast forward through some of these months. Let's go. I'm ready for it.
Yes. So here's my question. We do have a Black April O'Neil for this one.
Second time. There have been two. Yeah. In the last series, Rise of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, April O'Neil was also black. And Baxter Stockman has always been black. It was the 80s series that whitewashed him. Made him a white man. Couldn't handle a black man being a super smart genius scientist. Had to make him a white man.
Yeah. So my question is this for you, man. Do you feel like with the rest of the cast being the way it is, the conversation of pandering came up? Do you feel like it's pandering at this point in time?
No.
Why?
Well, one, there's been precedent. Oh shit. See, I can't talk.
Mm-hmm.
Precedent set by the Rise of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, as well as I just said, the previous series of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles dating way back to the 1980s, changing the race of Baxter Stockman. Fact of the matter is that April being white or, her being white or black does not matter. As long as April is a good comrade to the Turtles, that's the most important thing. That's the priority of the show. Doesn't really matter. Honestly, I was, I was being a little facetious, but I really don't mind if Baxter Stockman is white. Doesn't really matter to the grand scheme of the show, as long as the characters are who they are. And that's something that a lot of people, like, honestly, just aside Ninja Turtles, a lot of these characters, races, don't really matter unless it's explicit within their character DNA, like Black Panther. Can't have a white dude being T'Challa. That shit would be stupid. But you can mix up the races for some of these other characters. And April being black does not matter. Are the turtles green? Are they Mutant Ninja Turtles? It's cool. We good. That's the important thing. I said what I said.
Are they mutated?
Okay, cool.
Are they ninjas? Then what you got to complain about? Are they turtles?
Ain't got shit else to complain about.
We couldn't get that. We couldn't get that turtle part in some of them. So
So cool. I'm gonna turn this question towards you, JT. So we had Velma, which had an Asian Daphne. You had Southeast
This doesn't
South.
transfer well, but go on.
How not? Because you had an all white cast for fucking Scooby Doo. So I'm asking the question of this is the fact that you had an all white cast who are cis heterosexual when it came to Scooby Doo, the original one, and now you have a cast with Velma, which actually is she's from India. Her family is from India, and then also Daphne is Asian, and then you have obviously like Fred is white, and this one you got a half black, half white Shaggy. Velma and Daphne is gay in this one. So do you
Shaggy's
feel
a
like
African.
he's a African? Yeah, he's a full fucking African. So do you feel like that is a situation where that's pandering to that because they
Yes.
actively change the
That the whole
Why
show is a giant pander box.
Why is that?
The definition of pandering is essentially like catering to the lusts of others for your own selfish gain. So, I mean, you got all pretty much they try to turn the whole formula of Scooby Doo on their head. This pandering because they don't know what the friggin' audience wants, so they tried whatever shit gets people's rocks off. Pandering. The whole thing is a giant pander.
But how's that different from the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and the Nice and Football?
I can tag back in on
Do
this one.
you feel like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles is catering to people for a specific reason other than to get them to actually watch it? I don't.
The
So
thing
it's
with
not
Velma that pisses me off in history, I hate you brought this up because I was forgetting about Velma.
Right.
The thing that
I don't even
Velma
want to talk
did
about it.
that was terrible is that they drew attention to it. They tried to act like, oh, do you like race blind casting? And then turned around and mentioned damn near throughout the show that she's Indian. Mentioned the fact about Shaggy being black. Mentioned Daphne being Asian. And it's like, if you're gonna do that, if you're gonna change the race, don't overplay that shit because then it comes off as pandering. Then it comes off as, oh, we did this just to check some boxes. Like Velma in Scooby Doo media has been trending gay for a while. It's been going on for years, and it's been done better than what it was done in Velma. What they did in Velma, they drew attention to it. They made it way too big of a deal, and they're pandering. That's the difference. And Ninja Turtles, they made April black because it was a choice to make. It wasn't, oh, let's do this for Black History Month. Nah, they've done that before with the races. So that's the main difference. If you change somebody's race and you really like hammer it home, like, yes, this is good. Like, this is like if you overdo the shit, then I think you're pandering. If you just, hey, this girl black now, let's move on. Then I don't feel like you're really trying to pander to me. I feel like, all right, you just made a creative choice and we're moving forward.
Gotcha.
See, there's a difference between like changing the character and changing the character's skin color. You know what I'm saying? So you can have the same person, the same Shaggy type person. You can have the same, lovable doofus, the same kind of Homer Simpson type dude, and change the skin color and then still have the same characteristics of this character. Didn't nobody try to do that anywhere close to Velma. They just used a bunch of names you'd already heard before. That was pretty much the only it. This is a straight up dog whistle to get y'all to tune in to some shit. Just because you know what people are called. Ain't no other reason to watch the show.
You mean
AT, my brother? I enjoyed that tag team that we did. That was
no? I'm just asking because
I don't even like talking about it because it's such an obvious pander to me. It's not even worth even referencing the source material.
well,
It's so obvious, painful.
I mean, I guess the question is this. I mean, and the reason why I asked that is because of the fact that on one end, you definitely do say that like it's not pandering because of the fact that the characters are just kind of black, and I get what you're saying about like if you kind of like make it as like kind of like what XD says is like make it so brazen that like obviously yes I'm a black reporter in New York, what do you think is going to happen, then I would feel like that's a situation of pandering. I feel like that's a situation of obviously like you're trying to basically take a social issue and try to bring it forefront to this old Nickelodeon cartoon character, you know what I mean? And so when it comes to Velma, yes, I obviously do see where you can you could put that, not kind of, you can obviously put that she is making it obvious that you're a white male Freddy, but she absolutely still wants to fuck Freddy. That was the whole thing into for like most of the series. So that's what I'm asking. I mean, do you think it's pandering either way? But also, my question is too, is that there's still a lot of people who consume this and they still like these products. So wouldn't somebody say that it'd be pandering if they did not do it?
That's
Let
not how
me tell
pandering
you
works,
something
man.
Well,
about
it does. It can work on both sides of the coins. So, for example, if you feel like yes,
How do you pander by not giving in to something? It's not a thing.
you can pander by not giving into something. By
No,
not
that's
giving into something, you can't pander.
That's a different term. It's not pandering.
Because like you can say, man, you know what, bro? Like, why you to make Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles black? And if majority of the people like something that's the characters being not black, and then all of a sudden you just say like there's some type of pushback for it. A great situation of like pandering or not pandering and not pandering will be like the J.K. Rowling's and the Hogwarts Legacy video game right now. That's an obvious situation right now because J.K. Rowling's got in trouble for her trans comments and stuff like that, but we still got a Hogwarts game. That's kind of a situation where they've been brazen about it. And then also the characters have been.
Where's the pander part, dog? Like, do I need to?
They made a game, even though like there's been an outcry for a person to not have their products be made anymore.
Well, the thing with that, which is why it's not pandering, is that Warner Brothers has gone through great lengths to disassociate J.K. Rowling with the Harry Potter product. For example, they did the Harry Potter reunion, I want to say last year or in 2021, and she was not mentioned and time. Like it was basically like, this thing just happened. And so they're going to make money off of it. Don't like it ain't pandering. It's hey, let's make money off of this thing. Pandering would be it wouldn't be pandering. Like that's not a pandering situation. Pandering situation would be them, say for example, if a right-wing group were to bark up and they make a whole bunch of changes that explicitly appeal to that group. That be pandering. For example, your average Fox News, they pander to a specific audience. CNN, MSNBC pander to a specific audience. It's why both networks are very dishonest because they're clearly pandering and they're clearly focusing on a specific audience while ignoring or
so what do we consider frame? I'm about to say that would be framing. They're framing stuff to fit for the narrative of a specific audience. In that case, so that's what I'm asking though. Like you got like a show like you got a video game like Hogwarts Legacy, and now you can make a character be trans. You can make them bi. You can make them all these colors and stuff like that. And then this is still being published right now. J.K. Rowling still makes royalties off of this. So that is kind of, I mean, there's a demand for something. You're making something despite the fact that counterculture.
It's not pandering if there is a demand for it and the demand is honest. In some ways, you could look at these developers as putting those options into the game as a giant middle finger to J.K. Rowling. So I don't see how this is going to be a pander.
Because the pander part is the fact of like they still made a game, even though there has been a demand as well to not make products that came from J.K. Rowling. That is a product that is from J.K. Rowling.
You can't have a demand to not do something.
Yes, you can.
It's a boycott.
You can demand that something not happen.
This stuff.
Yes, you can.
There's a basically like everybody who doesn't want your product is not part of the equation of supply and demand. All that matters is the people who are in demand of what you got. Everybody
but by
else
your definition, they did pander. They made a product still because of the fact that
right. And then I also gave you the other side of the coin as to why it's not pandering.
Yes,
because that goes directly against J.K. Rowling's opinion of the world, and yet they put it in the world that she created. If that's not a snub, I don't know what is. So I'm not going to get mad at them for pandering when it looks to me like a digital middle finger.
So then we can still agree that it's still in theory a pander, then. even if it's still as that.
I don't feel like it is.
So okay, then
how do we get on Hogwarts Legacy?
Well, what I'm using it as I was using it as an example for the same thing for like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, as well as because I felt like that was a little bit easier for you to understand. But with that, man, let's move on.
You had to give us baby bits. What?
Yeah, I felt like it, man. Shit, I felt like I had a dog walk this one. No pun intended.
I just feel like you needed the definition of the word pander, and this would have saved us a lot of time.
No, I don't need. I mean, I obviously just like to quote Jamel, we do have this machine called Google. I could definitely look up that, but I'm just trying to get your understanding of what is pandering. And like to me, I feel like it is pandering for the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles because you went and made these characters like this. That you, I mean, I feel like that.
Let's put a button on that. It's not. Because again,
in your opinion,
no, it's not.
No, how is it pandering if they got the best person for the job?
Okay, we'll agree to disagree on this one.
What to say? Yeah, it's not. I'm not saying that you're wrong. I'm just saying that in your opinion, that is technically pandering. So, I mean, I'm just sorry. It's not pandering for you when it comes to Teenage Mutant Turtles, but for me, it is. I feel like it is. I'm not saying that I don't want to see this movie. I would love to see this movie.
If the movie comes out and she's whack, then we can call it pandering. But if she knocks it out the park, then she was the best person for the job.
No, you can't take a positive and then say that it is that. That's not right.
Why not?
Because then you're trying to only get the best. We got to own up to some of that negative shit too.
If she does bad, and then they just like, oh, well, they just wanted a Black April, they just threw her in there. Okay, pander. But if she does good, then why is it beyond? It proves to me beyond more doubt than not that it is somebody who went in there, nailed the audition, got the part.
And if she goes in there, nails the part, and is able to do some pro-black shit, hey, that's the Miles Morales situation. Is that you're able to knock out, be good as a character, have a good performance, and you're able to be a positive in a lot of ways. But if she's terrible, I'm gonna say she's terrible. I'm still not gonna say she is pandering, but I'm gonna say, that was some terrible shit.
I feel closer to what you said, Jamel, the JT aspect of it.
Again, it's
not
okay.
No.
We've stayed on this subject too long. Where is the timer at, host?
Well, no, man, it's not that. It's a fact. It's a question, bro. That's the part of this. The question was already answered to us. The rest of it is free speech. So with that, the last thing is before we move on to our movie review, we actually do have Chris Rock backlash after the stand-up comedy special. And I'm not going to talk about
backlash after all that mess. The stand-up comedy special was so safe because he didn't want another rapper mad at him.
That's what he said specifically throughout the whole time. So with that, Chris Rock got backlash because of the fact that he made a comment. Well, two of them. He made a comment initially was that he watched the movie Emancipation just to see Will Smith get whipped. And there was backlash because of the fact that people were talking about the fact that he's actually making fun of slavery. So here is my question for you. What say you, sir? You sound like you've seen it, JT. Do you feel like that was him making fun of actual slavery? 2 minutes will be put on the clock.
Zoom out of here. I'm trying to look at y'all while I roast these people. Look, Chris Rock used slavery to make a joke. This is what comedians do. I completely expect, and that was the funniest joke in the special. Unfortunately, it was already spoiled for me by some headlines, but it was the funniest joke. And Will Smith brought it upon himself by doing this movie, this friggin' penance-looking film. You know what I'm saying? So I don't see why Chris Rock is getting backlash for anything. He was going to make jokes, and he could have made a whole lot more and punched below the belt way more than he did. Because I would have been digging for laughs though. I wouldn't have been digging just to dig. And Chris Rock really felt like he was a classier person in this special than some of the previous ones because he did the bigger thing. But he went out there and he used it in his craft.
Yes.
So I don't see the point to give him no backlash. He wasn't making fun of slavery. He was using slavery to make fun because that's what comedians do. You can find a humor in anything if you got the right perspective.
So Jamel, you had a different experience with it. You haven't watched it, correct?
I've seen some snippets of it,
You don't feel
and
like
I've
you need to watch
heard specifically the stuff on Will and Jada. And let me be honest with you, it sounds like just as Will Smith and Jada need to do a lot less healing and stop putting their stuff out there. Feels like to me Chris Rock need to do a little bit of healing, and this felt more like he was venting as opposed to telling jokes. And me, I'm gonna be honest with you, it's kind of been my problem with some of Dave Chappelle recent stuff. I'm not going to a comedy show to get lectured at. I kind of want to laugh. If you want to be poignant with stuff and bring up political topics and all of that, I'm cool. But bro, you were venting and not joking, and I could have used a few more jokes. That's that's kind of the point of comedy. Like I've seen niggas be angry due to stand-up comedy stuff, like my man Bill Burr can be angry as hell, but it's always within the frame of a joke. And I just feel that this one from Chris Rock was he's still a little bit raw about what happened. You can zoom me out. We can all be on the screen at the same time. It feels like he was still raw about what happened. And honestly, I kind of wouldn't blame him because if you Chris Rock, you've been climbing up this whole ladder in entertainment for all these years. You grinded as a comic. You had your own show, won Emmys, did all this stuff. Now you're trying to cross over into the legitimate side of drama and shit. And you in a room full of people who are far more powerful than you in Hollywood. Another black man slaps your ass. He's able to turn around, sit down in his chair, and no consequences really happen to him, and he still gets an award and gets applauded. I'd be kind of bitter about that. He could go a little bit harder, but it's also like, bro, maybe you need to sit down with Gail or Oprah, sit down with Miss Van Zant, sit down with somebody who about this healing stuff, chat for an hour, get all this out, and then focus on the funny. Because that was my biggest issue is that it was very mid. Like it was just wasn't feeling it.
I mean, here's my thing. From actually watching the actual stand-up comedy special, you could definitely see that he was frustrated, like at the very fucking end. And I think that it wasn't even him intentionally trying to bring up the actual slap. It just happened to come up with the mix of his actual jokes. And so, because you heard how he said it, he was like, "You know what happened to me. It's not like it's because you could kind of see if you watch it, you'll get my point. Is that it was not it was not supposed to be a part of the bit. That last 10 minutes just kind of felt like it was definitely him just obviously like you said venting out, but I think it became out of a place of rawness and he lost his professional aspect of it. But I do think that the reason why
You think he didn't practice that?
I'm going to say no. I'm going to say no because I feel like it would have been more calculated. I felt like he
Yeah.
tripped it. It would have been more calculated. If you listen to it, it would have been more calculated.
Also, and this is kind of important, this is why comics never like do live stand-up specials. This is why these joints is always recorded ahead of time so that you can edit because if you do stumble, you can keep your stuff pretty.
And they do
And
4 shows and take the best clips out of them,
mhm,
Yeah,
seam
it-
together that seamless run.
yeah.
yeah, and
And
it's
he
just
did
like
that
again,
full. Yeah, he did
from
that
the
full
stuff
vibe.
that I've seen of the special, one thing about Chris Rock is that even if he ain't like smiling or whatever. Chris Rock always, when he does stand up, it seems like he's got a command of what he's doing. Like he speaks with confidence. Even in the last special Tambourine, where he was talking about his divorce, he was still speaking, like he was in control of himself.
Mhm.
Didn't feel that in this one. This one, it really felt like, oh, this kind of felt like he lost his way. Like to quote Rocky 3, he lost that eye to Tiger, and oof, it might take some. It might take a while for him to get that back as Chris Rock's stand-up performer.
Yeah, I agree with that because it felt like it definitely felt like that was not supposed to be part of the show, and it tripped and stumbled and inside of that because he even made a comment. He said emancipation, and then he had to correct himself in the actual name of the movie. He said, and then he said I fucked up the joke. You even heard him say that I fucked up the joke. What the joke was supposed to be. And so, but yeah, I don't think that it came out of place of being wrong. I don't think that it came out of place of like him actually coming out naturally. I do think that it was supposed to be a joke that was going to slightly do like tongue in cheek towards it, but you could definitely tell that like that stumble kind of completely crumbled the actual what he was actually supposed to say at towards the end. So what we got, one could argue, was artfully done, or is a collapse in somebody's stand-up comedian career. I mean, who knows? Who knows? With that, man, we had a couple other crazy things that came out. Obviously, 60% drop in fucking Ant-Man. That was the biggest thing that recently happened, as
God
well
damn.
as 60% drop, bro.
Tucker Carlson also some text came out where he talks about how much he hates Trump. Just
Yes.
messiness over it. Like
Yes,
it's hilarious.
and the last thing is Dilbert. Scott Adams, the creator of fucking Dilbert, came out and said, "Stay away from black people."
I know the black community. We heard about that. We heard about it.
Dilbert.
JT, what about you? Are you half upset and half indifferent, or
I was never a fan of Dilbert. I thought it was one of the least funniest. Like the drama comics were better than Dilbert.
Yeah. I watched the cartoon when it was on UPN.
Oh my
I remember an
God.
episode where Stone Cold Steve Austin was on there, and it was whack. Like honestly, like it's office humor from the 1990s. Like it's cool to decorate your desk with it if you work in an off, working hard or hardly working type shit. But
It
nah, bro,
was.
it
It
was
was.
whack. And this nigga's made all this money about it. So what are you mad? I gotta ask that with certain people. It's like, dog, why are you mad? Like you hustled. Like you hustled everybody with your
Yes.
little whack ass Dilbert comic and made all this money. Why are you mad?
Yes.
Why the fuck are you mad? Why are you getting angry at us? Nigga, you won. You've probably
Hold on.
made more money
Wait.
than people who created some of the greatest comic book characters of all time. The nigga who made Batman ain't have as much money as Dilbert. Niggas who made Spider-Man and fucking Captain America ain't got as much money as the nigga that made Dilbert. This whole ass nigga has made more money than Neil Adams, Dennis O'Neil, titans of the comic industry. The Dilbert motherfucker made more money than them, and he got the nerve to bitch about black people in any
Wait.
way.
Wait.
Why?
Wait.
You hustled everybody. Shut the fuck up, live with your money, and move on. You just like, oh well, black people, nigga, shut up.
Wait, bro.
You made
I
75 million. You worth $75 million, and you bitching about fuck you
I
and
think
fuck
that
Dilbert.
I think that I buried the lead too hard. Did you know that this man is transracial?
So he Rachel Dolezal now.
Yeah, he identified as black initially, and now he's taking back his whiteness. So
Hold on.
wait, no. The question was for that guy down there, real fast. Go ahead and finish. Go ahead, take your deep swallow. As a residential African, I need you to speak for the white people on this one, bro, on this side. What happened? What was the collapse in this man's decision making?
Well, if you ask me, his problem there was he thought he was black, got around some real ones, and they showed him the what for. That's what I think. I'm with you, Shirokaze. Obligatory.
Damn. Oh man, it's so wild that this man identified as black.
75 million off of Dilbert, and you mad
That is
about
one rich ass nigga.
What do you have to be mad about when you made that much money? Unless you
off
spent
a
it
whack
all.
ass off a whack ass comic. That's the
Hard
thing,
off a whack comic.
Yeah.
dog. Nigga, you ain't
So
make Garfield. You ain't
yeah,
make fucking Family Circle. You made Dilbert, and
you
you
made
you that
Dilbert.
rich, and you got the. I'm mad at Black. Why?
Why are you
Why?
mad at black people? I
If
don't
you
know,
try, see, the
man.
problem is if you try to be transracial, you can be yourself
Yeah.
and still be around black people. Did you know that? You can do it.
You must
So,
want
like,
to say
it's
nigga one
funny to me
time.
to see what type of freedom that he thought he needed. That's my question. Like, what did he think he
He
gained
thought
by
that he
doing
was
this?
helping. He thought he was helping the cause,
By
and he thought that we
applying for
were
loans
good.
with that box checked on the mortgage app?
I don't know. I don't know. But speaking of checking off boxes, checking off boxes. This film actually did not check all the boxes at the box office that we're about to
That's a
review.
weird. That is a weird transition.
Oh man, did you see the reviews on this? The actual like writing down for the reviews on this. You'll get my actual context in it. But this film did not technically check all the boxes for a lot of people when it came to films. So with that, man, this film takes place in my home state that we're actually about to review. Jamel, tell us about the film that we are reviewing today.
Yeah, I feel like New Orleans is owed an apology for this taking place there because this movie is from is from 2020. It is Antebellum. Yeah, if you know what the word antebellum means, if you know what it's associated with, you can take a guess at what the subject matter is. It stars Janelle Monáe, a gentleman by the name of Eric Lang, someone by the name of Jenna Malone, uh, Gabori CDB, aka Precious. Which I'm gonna say this right off the top. Honestly, the best thing about this movie is seeing her. She looks really good. Like she all like being Precious. That probably is not the funnest thing to have people know you for being Precious, and she looks excellent. She did all up like she like shout out to her. But yeah, movie premise is this woman from the 21st century, black woman. She wakes up and she is mysteriously in the past in a southern slave plantation where she has to escape. Um, yeah, it's directed by a gentleman by the name of Gerard Bush and his husband, Christopher Renz. Yeah, we gonna let's go on,
Okay. So, hey,
let's kick this
Jamel,
thing off.
tell us what else. Tell us what else those two have done together.
All right, let's see what else happened. Besides
I'll save you
fucking,
the time. A couple of music videos and some short films.
I was
So
gonna
this is their
say
first
besides
outing.
each
Well, I guess
other
their second outing,
that
but this is their first outing in the film territory.
God damn,
well they've had
JT.
yeah, like I said, each other, some music videos in this movie are what they've done together.
Okay.
And look, I'm gonna be honest with you. That might be part of the problem. You're a first time director, you really got and you're gonna tackle something semi heavy, you're gonna have to bring the noise. Like you can't be easy with this shit. Look at Ryan Coogler in Fruitvale Station. Right out the gate, man, was hard. Look at John Singleton with Boys in the Hood. Right out the gate. Like you gotta
Well,
you
the
gotta
boys in
bring
the
it.
hood are always hard.
God damn it. Ah man.
Good
So
night,
yeah,
everybody.
Antebellum.
Take a bow. Take a bow on that one. Take a bow on that one. Take.
You
Thank
deserve
you.
that round of
Thank you.
applause.
Yeah,
We're gonna kick things off.
that, ladies and gentlemen, is your late night
Let's
dad
kick
joke of the
things
evening.
off with JT, our favorite African. JT, we saw Janelle Monáe in a film last week with Hidden Figures. How'd you think she did as the lead, as the sole lead of this movie?
The movie could have used another lead.
Yeah,
No, and that's not to diminish Janelle Monáe's performance. It's just to say she needed something else to work with. And so on the plantation in this movie, they had a rule of, can you please zoom me out? Because I ain't going to talk for that long. And I also have questions for y'all too.
It helps with the actual keeping like the focus on it. So it actually is better if I
Just
don't
look at
make-
me when I'm talking. People going to be listening to this anyway. Look, the rule at this plantation was black people don't get to talk unless they're spoken to, right? I should say enslaved people, but there was only one color. So the extremely melanated folks had to wait until they were talked to in order to say anything. And so one of the biggest missed opportunities to me was when you're not supposed to say nothing, what's the conversation that happens? They sitting over there whistling. Well, are they whistling a tune? Do they have like a little code? You know what I'm saying? Have they try to do anything? No, the answer is no. There was absolutely nothing else going on. And what they did was, as opposed to creating atmosphere, they eliminated any type of world building in this plantation. So it was a very huge missed opportunity to even have that installed there.
We appreciate you. They call him. We appreciate you.
Yeah, I'm gonna say,
JT, you said you had a question for us.
Yeah. So when you're not allowed to speak, what do you think the important messages would need to have been passed around? Because stuff like when are we gonna leave? They ain't talking about no patrols when they're sitting there at dinner time, the first dinner. After they come back from battle, they just standing around. Like you would be listening to everything. You would be trying to hear who's messing up. These guys are getting drunk. What are they talking about? You know what I'm saying? Like this was the reality. You had to be on your toes. They think you stupid. Yeah. That's your benefit. And so as real enslaved people, would probably have been far more aware of their surroundings than these folks are given credit for. And it really just felt like a missed opportunity to talk about what life would really have been like. We can't talk, so we got to act like this. There was none of that. It was just, okay, I'm quiet. Nah, it just didn't, that world building didn't work for me.
I concur with that. I think a good comparison to this, and I watched this movie like last month, the dinner scene in Django Unchained when they're talking, and you notice the slaves in the background, like they're paying attention, like they ain't looking up, but they're paying attention to everything, and they move, and that's something that could have been done in this one. History, since you did choose this, let's go on over. Oh, did you have a question for history?
What do you think they would have really been talking about if you could have rewrote the movie or added something? What do you think that they should have been talking about?
I think that like it was intentional for the people to not be paying attention to it because of the fact that we live in a world where we have everything instantaneous, right? And you have to always kind of like you always experience a different change in that. So for people to have a hard time, people will have a hard time just sitting there and like attentively listening when it's naturally not their skill. So I think that was intentional. I will reference a different TV show, which I think that we should eventually just do a TV show, which is Kindred. Kindred did a really good job by showing a person going from the future to the past. Whereas you had these slaves, you could see the difference between a modern day person behavior and the actual slaves behavior. So yes, slaves in that time probably would have nothing to do but listen. Whereas them, because of the fact that they're in that shell shock of like, oh shit, I've never been able to experience this in my life. And now I'm experiencing this thing that specifically is supposed to be like the worst detrimental Holocaust of Black people, I guess you would say. This is that coming to fruition. I don't think that she would have never had that response. So I think that it was the legit response. I will say this: the one part that I would have changed is the fact of how their behavior. Their behavior was modern day, and that's how I'm going to reference it for the rest of the actual stream. Is how their behavior modern day was supposed to be reflected past life. So you seen them kind of be a little bit more reckless when they was supposed to be slaves, but when you see Janelle Monáe introduce herself to people, she was far quieter. She was snippy, but she was far quieter. So like going into like a couple of scenes ahead, the hotel staff was treating her like shit the whole time, and she really didn't do nothing. So it doesn't surprise me that her character really didn't say nothing when she actually was met with that conflict.
Because her character was underwritten? Yeah.
She's a sociologist who goes on TV regularly and argues, and she's pretty famous for that. And she she's that quiet when she.
She's
Yeah,
quiet
They
in real
forgot
life,
it- that they
but
forgot about that scene when they was making this movie, bruh. That mess was
you
too early in the film. We all done forgot about it. It really felt like the movie failed to build on anything, and it was just kind of going lateral or one way.
yes and no. I'm not saying that they've. I will agree that they definitely could have wrote her character a little bit stronger, but I do think that what it was trying to show is that like there is two sides to her character. She does everything that she does for lights, cameras, action when she's on the stage and everything like that. When she has to put that facade on, she does put that facade on. But when she's actually in her personal life, she is relatively quiet. She really did not do anything when it came to her personal life.
you
She
know
was
what? I gotta. I see where both of you guys are coming from, and I think that if this shows that the film is not written very well, going back to the scene of the slaves paying attention. I think if they had in a more clever way made it kind of known like, hey, these are 21st century people. Our attention spans are a little bit, they're lesser. People have a harder time just sitting still, shutting the fuck up and paying attention to stuff. If they conveyed that in a more clever way, I wouldn't have like it's something that I probably wouldn't notice. It's like, okay, you can kind of like if you imagine, oh, a person during slavery, they had to be ultra aware of everything, had to be ultra aware, pay attention to everything. Modern day people, we kind of have a luxury of we can pay a little bit less attention to our surroundings. And so I think that if it was conveyed, I understand completely where you're coming from history. And like with JT, it it's not a strongly written film. But
yeah. I definitely
speaking
agree.
of speaking of the world building, so the slave land. All right, so let's let's see where I want to go with this.
Well, can I ask a question?
Just
Why you think
go
about that
go
real
right ahead.
fast? So, because JT brought up a good question, but I want to ask you this because technically that means those gentlemen also have modern technology as well. So the idea of having cornrows where you actually have like the slave maps and like some of those those terminologies are no longer necessarily accessible anymore. But then also on top of that, history be actually taken away from them as well. So, do you think that that actually affected the way that these people actually behave as well? Because the fact that we are being kind of like told that we don't need to talk about critical race theory, we don't need to be talking about slaves because slaves weren't slaves, they were indentured servants, stuff like that. Do you think that that truly is what the takeaway as well from the behaviors of the people who were enslaved in Africa? Did that make sense what my question was?
Why don't you recap it for us?
Okay, so obviously we talked about like, well, no, we didn't talk about that part. But Florida has like this anti-critical race theory that's been kind of like been kind of the biggest thing is that we don't want to teach about like slavery, the history of slavery, and obviously this is in fucking Louisiana. So, do you think that because of the fact that history has been depreciated when it comes to talking about slavery, the actual past of like Jim Crow and so on and so forth, do you think that that's what led to the behaviors of the slaves themselves, the people who were modern day slaves? Do you think that they just did not know necessarily their history enough to be able to actually devise a plan to capitalize on modern day slave masters who knew the history of
You
these
talk about
slaves
in this movie Antebellum?
in this antebellum movie. Yes.
No, they were just underwritten.
Okay.
So yeah, so
Go for
about
it.
slave land that we see in this movie because uh, okay, first this movie like again I'm not making my feelings I'm not hiding my feelings about how I feel about this movie, but it
Oh,
did
go.
get me down a little bit of a rabbit hole. And wow, there is a pretty lucrative industry of books and shit about what if the South won the Civil War, like that. It kind of got me on a weird Google search trajectory. So just kind of curious, what do y'all think of historical reenactments when it comes to something like the Civil War? do you think it can serve an educational purpose, or do you not see the value in it? JT, I'll go ahead with you. And we don't need to zoom in close. These are probably going to be some short answers.
The latter. I don't see the value. I've been to Civil War reenactments. There are
What
other
about
reenactments that you could do. The only thing about Civil War reenactments is they happen there at these points. But in order to really get any value of the reenactment, you need to understand the context of why that battle happened. So as long as that's being taught, and in some states they are actively trying to make sure it's not. But as long as it's being taught, you can get some value.
history? What about you? What say you?
Um, I think that like the Civil War reenactments, um, I'll be a hypocrite if I say that like we don't have need these, but then also not talk about these other things. I think that Civil War reenactments are what they're designed to be, is glorifying white people's glory, not necessarily the fact of like the actual trauma that's actually happened in between that. So I do think that there needs to be Civil War reenactment, but it needs to be actually it needs to be with the context of like the actual understanding of what those were for and how those affected another demographic of people. So, I mean, if we could do Civil War reenactments, then we could do obviously those classes of critical race
Not
theory.
XG.
So
Good night.
I would say, um, yeah, I would say we need to be able to actually do both. We need to be able to talk about both sides of the coins if we're going to do Civil War reenactments.
I've I've personally never gotten the point of Southern states doing historical reenactments for the Civil War because you traitors lost that shit. Like y'all
Mm-hmm.
took that L. You tried to betray the country. You took an L. Why you
Right.
trying to replay it? That's like the University of Michigan replaying doing reenactments of that fucking Appalachian State game or that game in the Final Four that Chris Webber fucked up. Like, like let's relive our L's. Like, nah, that's stupid. But speaking of some of the other characters, who was another standout character amongst this bunch for each of you guys? We'll kick things off with this question with you, history.
Um. Let me actually look up the actual names on that. So, fuck, because I'm really terrible with these damn people's
What about
names.
you, JT? While history's looking stuff up, anybody stand out to you in a good way for a good performance?
Obviously, Janelle Monae took the cake, but yeah, Precious was absolutely standout. I definitely adored her time on screen. Um, daughter was a cutie pie, and the husband seemed cool. We really didn't get a lot of him, so you know, yeah, it
I'm gonna
was it
say
was
Um.
cool.
something that's weird when we get to because I'm Ags, who may have been the worst actor in the movie. But history. What about you? Anybody?
So
Because
I
anybody stand out to you in a positive way as far as a performance?
I wasn't a crazy super fan of Galberry. That's her name. That's Dawn. That's her character. I wasn't a super crazy fan of it, but I felt like she, because of the fact that she absorbed the whole film, um, she took over the film with her character. Her character actually had the strongest dialogue throughout the whole time. So I'm going to say that technically Dawn, but I also want to like give kudos to Preach. That's his character name in there. I'm trying to find the dude's name. Preach. His wife died in the game in the actual in the plantation, and then he had to go clean up the actual shelter, and then he ultimately helped Janelle Monae's character actually escape as well. So I will say that
Eli.
technically Eli,
Uh, yeah.
Eli. Oh, there you go, Professor Tarasi. Yeah, I would say that he technically is my other standout character inside of that.
All right. So on a negative perspective, for you guys, who was dragging this production down the most as far as a bad performance?
Um, I would say the husband. I would say the husband. I felt like he overact a lot of the scenes, especially like when he was like, he got the big grinny face when his daughter was showing the picture and everything like that. It just felt like he was really selling the fact that I'm a stay at home dad kind of thing. So I
That
will.
scene frustrated me when she called her. Like she was taking too long to get to like, hey, like baby, like oh my god, you're alive. Yeah, nigga, I'm here looking for this pen. Like,
Talking
like
way too long.
too
God,
much.
dog.
There was too much
I
chatter.
just gotta listen to your voice. No, you better
Shut the
have your
fuck up.
shit planned out.
Yeah.
I know the message I'm gonna tell him. I'm on a plantation somewhere.
Yeah.
Here's my pen. And I leaned over, told my wife, I was like, look, if you ever in these situations, an SMS can save your life because it is such a smaller unit of data that has to go back and forth. It's just a tiny little packet that got to hit the tower for a little bit. So if you dropping a pin or something like that, that can save your life. If you're trying to call some people, talk to them, nah. But if you get a random pin getting dropped and you look up that mug, she on a plantation. If you the husband, you know what that is. So all she had to do was drop the pin to begin with. You know what I'm saying? Drop the pin, then call him. I'm here. Did you get the pin?
Yes and no.
That would have been the first thing. But no.
Yes and no.
But no.
Yes and no with those plantations, man, because a lot of those plantations in Louisiana have become like bed and breakfasts and like historical museums at sites and shit like that.
Let's talk about that's
yeah.
weird. That is a weird thing. Like, ooh, let's stay on this old slave plantation. White people, why? Some of that stuff again, like why? I want to go have my wedding at a plantation, nigga. Anyway, for me, and this is gonna sound. I hope y'all understand where I'm coming from when I'm about to say this. I didn't like any of the racists in this movie. I didn't think they did a good job of being racist. Now,
ain't that
agreed?
They weren't good enough at being hateful crackers. Like the main guy, Senator Blake Denton. It's just like, dog, where is my Leo in Django Unchained?
Mm-hmm.
Like, like that is the gold standard of he is being fucking racist and he is just honest to God, and this is going to call me what you want. Calvin Candy is one of my favorite characters. He is so entertaining. He is wildly entertaining, and he's racist as shit, and he's good at it. There ain't none of him there. Where's my man, Michael Rooker? Like, Michael Rooker is always good to play a racist in a movie, even though he is allegedly not racist in real life. He's great at that. Fucking Walking Dead and fucking Rosewood. Dude is fantastic at being a hateful cracker. Why wasn't he in this movie? Where is my man Walton Goggins? Walton Goggins is great at being a hateful ass white dude, country ass white dude. In The Hateful Eight, in Django Unchained, he is great. He says nigger very well. And yet they could have hired him. He could be a senator. He could be in a suit. He was in Ant-Man and the Wasp. He got a suit. Like he could be that. Like any of these white people who are great at being racist. We got none of the racist white people all stars in this, and it made for a less like that made the movie even less entertaining in my opinion.
Bro, that was one of my notes I put in. I said, no, there was in a movie about slaves, there was not a nigga in sight.
For real. For real.
There was not a nigga in sight. Like,
listen, you know who really grinded my gears was that little girl with the doll.
Gotcha.
I thought she was the worst part of the film. And like, if you Janelle Monáe, thank you. Your leftovers still ain't safe. If you Janelle Monáe, that about to share.
Janelle Monáe. So,
what black woman gonna let some kid talk to her like that and tell them to shish?
Absolutely. Come on, dog. It was her in the elevator. Be like, girl, what are you talking about? I don't deal with that little girl. Don't talk to me no more. You know what? She would have hit the elevator thing, kicked her off. Get out. You can take the next one.
That was my point. Is the fact that like
none of that. We didn't get none of that.
Yeah, that's my point. Is the fact that we had. That's why I said it doesn't surprise me that her character was quiet and like scared throughout the whole time. It's because of the fact that she clearly had a weird ass guy come and give her like cotton for her actual cotton bouquet. And when she asked where it came from, He was like, he just turned around and walked the fuck off on her. And then you can see the disrespectful. You can see the disrespectful stewardess as well at the front counter as well. So, and then obviously the white girl, the white little girl. So I felt like there was plenty of situations where that was telling you that, like, man, these white people really don't fucking dig you. So
She's really written character.
yeah,
That's it. Just reiterates, like, dog, none of this feels. This is just, she didn't feel like a real person. That was the thing.
yes, yes. I think that she more didn't feel like a real person when it came to her dialogue. Her dialogue when she was having with normal people, and even when her speeches, it just felt like they wrote a random bunch of words and quotes from people, and then all of a sudden they gave it to her to actually speak at the Essence Festival randomly or a random convention or something like that.
Because of
So
course, you know what
yeah,
they did. They saw girls trip, and they was just like, "Ooh, Essence Fest." Like, I know one of the directors is black, but that feels like, "Ooh, we saw this thing. Now let's exploit that." Like, I'm gonna be honest with you, and this is like the movie itself. I don't feel that there's much to glean from because I don't think it's a very good movie. But
mhm.
I do want to ask both of you guys this: do you think this movie could have worked better if there was no, if it were like a pure sci-fi horror movie where it's not at a fake amusement park, slave land? She actually somehow, through some type of trickery, traveled back in time and is now a slave. Do you think the movie
Then
could have
then it would
worked
be
better
Kindred.
then?
I want to
Oh,
say yeah. Then it would be Kendrick.
Then it would be
It would be.
Kindred.
It would
okay.
absolutely be Kendrick.
Uh,
Yeah, I would absolutely say that it would be
Maybe
Kendrick.
we should
Which
watch Kendrick.
I watched Kendrick, dog. I'm disappointed that they just announced that they canceled for the second season, and they left it on a huge ass fucking cliffhanger. And
That happens a lot to black shit. Like, let's be honest. Moesha
Hmm.
ended on a cliffhanger.
yeah, Kendrick. The problem is with Kendrick is the fact that it was written by the same lady who made not only Terminator but also fucking The Matrix. But also, the problem is that it didn't follow the book. So that was one of the actual biggest backlashes. It didn't fully follow the book. So instead of being a 1980s actual storyline, it actually took place in 2016, and it just kind of went from there. So it's a wild experience. I it For the first 2 or 3 episodes, it was slow, and then it picked up at towards the end. So Kendrick is really good, and They Them is really good. Not They Them, Them. That's the name of it on Amazon.
Let's. I've got a bigger question that I kind of want to bounce off to you guys. The topic of slave movies. Now, do you feel that there is still a place or still a value in the slave movie being made in modern times? And I believe JT is preoccupied for a sec. Oh, JT
Yep.
is snacking, so
Yes.
we'll kick
What's
things
up?
off with you, JT. Do you think slave movies, the slavery type movies, do you think there's still a value in them being made in modern times?
No.
Or have we ran the well dry?
What else needs to be said about it? What else needs to be explained about it? We know it was wrong. We know it was brutal. But when you got Oscar-winning movies like 12 Years a Slave, which arguably wasn't long enough to count as, you should feel like you watched that movie for 12 years, but to show what life was like or to show the freedom is the only two things of value, in my opinion, that you can do in them slave movies. And in this movie, I was extremely disappointed with both of those features. Like they didn't. I don't think they did a good job at showing what life was like. And all you know is, oh, you had to be up at work at on time, but you didn't know when. You didn't know how. All you knew is they was up before they put the flag up. You know what I'm saying? And then the freedom in that movie was the worst because she just rode off on a horse, and then that was it. The cops is coming. She was free. That was it. So it was really disappointing to me on those two fronts in particular. because I wanted to see when you are released, that was the stuff like that release, that freedom, that is that thing that their ancestors have hoped and prayed for, and now part of their lineage has achieved that thing that they have been pushing for hundreds of years. That was the kind of stuff that was missing from this movie. So yeah, man. Hmm. I don't think that there's much value from them if they're going to make them like this, because where was the freedom and where was the way of life? You know what I'm saying?
History? What say you?
If it only provides new information, that's the only thing. I'm only gonna say that I'm gonna applaud this movie and also shoot it down for the same thing. I wish that they would have used the Florida Lee branding instead of using that BD branding in the film. I feel like that's the Florida Lee. If you ever see the actual New Orleans Saints, the Saint emblem, that was actually used to brand slaves. If you had two of those on your own brands on you, then you were actually euthanized. Let's lightly say that, right? If you had two of those brandeds on it. They branded her with that big BD on her back. I think that that's kind of where the takeaway was also, because he was in New Orleans. He was the senator for New Orleans as well. And so, but I wish that they would have gave them the Florida League, because it would have hit home about how much the control was for the French as well when it came to slavery. They used the Florida League, this symbol that we carry on our back, and we say that this is on one of America's football teams. That was a fucking branding for other people and to mark that you were property some kind of way. So I feel like only if it's new information that these are useful. Here is my fucking twist, though. We need to get some Irish fucking indentured servitude films. We need to get these other fucking films where we show other people's plight. That's where this slavery movies is pointless, because of the fact that it only shows black people in slavery, but then when you show white people when they're struggling, oh, they're cowboys, they're fucking Westworld. So realistically, I do think that they're pointless, but they can only be useful if they only gave new information. And these films don't give new information, and it can't just be about black people being enslaved for new information. I have not seen a Frederick Douglass movie yet. Have you?
Yeah, like we haven't. And for me personally, like just me personally, it was like the only slave movie I'll regularly watch willingly is Django, because Django has content that I love. It shows a whole lot of evil white people getting shot up and killed. And hey, these were slave owners. Fuck them. I will. Hey, it will be a cold day in hell when I'm like, nah, I want to see a Nazi or a slave owner uh get killed in a movie. Like, fuck them. But like, I made a conscious choice a few years ago to just be like, nah, I can't do the slave movies, and I'm about done with the civil rights era movies. Like the Till movie, I see no reason to see. I'm like, okay, this is either
Oh, we lost him a little bit. Oh, actually, I'm gonna ask you. While we waiting for him to come back. I don't know. So I'm gonna ask you a question real fast, JT. Um, Veronica character feels like she is trying to convince herself that she's and others around her that she is black enough. Did you get that actual kind of feeling throughout the whole time? Because if you do, you remember her like her speeches that she was giving during the actual
Not,
convention and shit
not
like that?
really. Yeah, but it seemed to me like she wasn't enough to move the situation herself.
Yeah,
And she talking to other people about how you can change your own situation, and then we see her at the end of the movie change her own situation
yeah,
where she had help and she got together with people. So
yeah,
I didn't really feel like it was a black enough thing, because she was there and picking cotton. So obviously, everybody else thought she was black enough.
yeah,
But I don't think that was. I mean, it definitely could have been alluded to, but I don't think that was the point, because they done scoped her and she was pro-black, so they really trying to get pro-black people off off the table, so they stopped going out there and spreading the truth.
Fair.
Yeah.
And the last question, and then we're gonna let Jamel take it away again. Is did y'all notice the usage of butterflies the most in this film?
Did not.
So I think that there was a rough version. I will say this. This is one part I would agree with y'all. I feel like they didn't translate what they were trying to do with the messaging of the butterfly inside of it. So they had butterflies for on her book cover as well as on the leg of the actual slave who the pregnant slave who hanged herself as well. Even for the actual fucking Antebellum logo, there was a lot of butterflies. So it felt like that very final scene, kind of going into what I said about like the question to you, JT, is it felt like she was convincing herself to be black enough, and then when she went through, she finally escaped. It looked like she was trying to do this whole metamorphosis type thing that a butterfly went through. So, do you feel
They
like
really,
that?
yeah, they really did not do a good job with that motif because I'm just noticing that her mouth is covered with a butterfly
Yep.
on the poster. I'm like, wow, didn't that had no significance at all. But
Yeah,
yeah,
it was a lot of butterflies
this,
used for this film.
this is a poorly written movie. Like
Fair enough.
we gotta keep saying this is a poorly written movie. Yeah. As I was saying this real quick, slave movies don't see no
Oh,
value in them. Don't see no value really in modern day the civil rights stuff because a lot of the stuff is being rehashed and like I see no point in me going to check out Till because at the end of the day that woman child got murdered by some lying bitch who's still alive and anyway. But yeah, the slave movies for me unless you are doing a like give Frederick Douglass his movie, maybe give Nat Turner a good movie, and then we can kind of put a pin on that
Ooh.
because it's just like, bro, all we're doing is watching black people get tortured. That at the end of the day, and to me, that's the biggest thing with this movie is that because it's not written well, all we have is the violence that happens towards these people, and I'm sorry, it's just not that really don't appeal to me. And this movie, it did not appeal to me in my opinion. But we'll keep things going with the questions for you guys. JT, did you have any thoughts? Any additional thoughts? All right, so let's fast forward to the end since you did touch on the history. What did y'all think of the symbolism where old girl, um, what's her name? What's his name? Elizabeth, where it was, I mean, she was dying, but what do you think of the symbolism of a Robert E. Lee statue being the cause of her final demise? We'll start things off with you, JT.
I liked it. The fact that they had that mug out there in the forest, it was a good irony. Um, that was a, I mean, almost an unsatisfying death when it happened, and then she looked at the monument, and I was like, oh, okay,
Yeah.
you get a pass.
Yeah, I honestly,
I,
and this is a compliment to Janelle Monet. Um, the murders she does are excellent. Like burning them three dudes alive in the crematorium, and then of course the statue kill. Beautiful. Fuck them. But yeah, I do like that symbolism. History. What about you? What you think about that final demise of the white bitch?
I'm going to say this, man. I think it actually is a lot deeper than what is actually given credit to. I want to say that's the same statue that was taken down during in the CBD area. That
Mm-hmm.
was supposed to be a replica of the same statue. There was a Robert E. Lee statue, and it was taken down. And I want to say it was the same one. And I think that that's what they tried to actually utilize, and that's why you had it right there in the middle. So I would say kudos to the writers for that fucking irony to that. Is so I like the aspect of her dying in it. I just think it was just kind of wild that we had Janelle Monet riding that horse and just a random statue just came out of nowhere. So it definitely felt more like a bus hitting a person in Final Destination than actually the fact of like, oh, this is an actual calculated actual move, I guess, or kill that she was actually going for. So yeah, man, I I like the fact that they did the Robert E. Lee. I think it was just more in depth for the fact that if you were from New Orleans and you knew that statue did exist at one point in time.
In the middle of a fucking forest seems like a stupid place to place that big of a statue, but
Exactly.
that like forethought is not some of these people's strength. So, with that being said, to the movie overall, how would y'all compare it to other movies that are kind of centered around the topic of slavery, kind of slavery adjacent? Well, how do y'all compare this movie to some of those? J, I've started off with JT a few times, and I'll keep going with that. JT, what do you think, and how does this movie compare to, say, some of the more well received or well regarded movies that center around slavery or the Civil War?
I don't think that the first off, the context is not about the Civil War. You know what I'm saying? Like that was the catalyst. And so the problem that this movie is showing is how deep rooted that the South shall rise again attitude is in certain parts of America. And the dude said we're everywhere, and nowhere. It's because where is a thought. You know what I'm saying? But there's people out there that think like this. And I think it was highlighting the residue of what those other movies have done so well. And so I give them kudos for that bit. But I think that it was a kind of under-imagined idea of what it would look like if somebody had really done this. It felt like it might have been limited budget-wise, you know what I'm saying? And the movie was a fantastic flop at the box office. It didn't even crack like 100K.
Yeah.
It was an absolute flop. And so
we'll
they
get to
probably
that
lost.
the month. We'll get to that in a moment. I'll go over some of those stats. But yeah, you are absolutely right. And JT, you know what? You brought up something that I never thought about, but I lost my train. God
I've
damn it,
been
I
doing
lost
it.
my train of
Was it
thought.
about the residue? I like that one.
It was it was a point you made before that. Like I was just like, damn, that's a very good point. But shit, I can't remember it. I can't remember word shit. I also took a edible before this, so yeah. Brain's going a little loopy. So, history. What about you? What do you think this movie compares? Because I know, and this is some behind the scenes stuff you talked about, and you kind of compared it to Amistad. But where do you, or how do you think this movie compares to some of the again the more well regarded slavery based movies?
Um, do I think that it capitalized on it? No, but I do think that it did a better job at giving a fresh take on the slavery film itself, the slavery genre itself. Um, I think that this movie is plagued with the idea that Get Out came out before it. I
Ooh,
think that it's plagued by that idea that Get Out came out before it. Because there's another film called Alice that came out around the same time as well, and that didn't do good worth of shit as well. So I do think that this one did a good job by doing the kind of like the transplant of modern day to slavery. Um, I just felt like the characters themselves weren't real. So that's kind of what the conversation what I felt like. It felt like she was trying to prove a point to somebody when she was talking to her best friend, her white best friend. She's talking to her Dawn and the other girl, the white character. That's her friends. Why are you having this fucking Nelson Mandela kind of like dissertation speech with your friend? You know, so I think that that's why you can enjoy a film like Django Unchained, because the fact that even though the conversations are and the situation itself is not realistic, the conversation came from an authentic, angry place, and you got kind of going into like I'm gonna use the word like what JT said, residue of it is the part that kind of should have been a big key part that triggered anybody's brain was the cracker part, because the fact that cracker was is not a thing that you
cracker
would think.
ass cracker.
Yeah, he said
Right?
cracker as cracker. So it's not a thing that you would naturally think a slave would say to a slave master. So it should have been the key to like that actual one of those tidbits of breadcrumbs that show you that that's actually modern day that they're actually existing in. So some of those parts
I
in
thought
those
he should
phrases,
have called him an ML instead of a cracker. He should be like, hey, mother, as he drove by. What'd you say?
but you know what is going to be a more offensive? You mean you heard him say motherfucker? I'm pretty sure he's called motherfucker all the time by even his Confederate friends. You mean, oh, son of a bitch. But if you got a slave, a person that's supposed to be lower than you, calling you what is supposed to be a derogatory term now for white people, I mean, that would hit different. So I would say that this film is plagued by the idea that we as modern day people know that there's modern day shit that they could have actually utilized in this film. So I think that that's where this film is plagued by. That makes sense what I'm
Poor
saying?
writing in a lot of places in this film. Also,
Yeah, I agree.
Cracker. I looked that up really quickly. Like, huh? I wonder when did Cracker start to
There's
become
no
used in
real
vernacular.
definition of it.
There's
But
no real date, but I saw one early usage was in 1850. So, a slave may have. Well, slave probably wouldn't have said it loud enough for the Cracker to hear. But um, I'm glad you mentioned Jordan Peele. Do you guys think that with different direction that this movie could have been improved? And I'm gonna throw out a couple names, and I want to know what y'all would think. So he was still alive at this time. So John Singleton, do you think he could have did something with this at this stage of his career? Wait,
no.
time out, time out, time out, time out, time
John
out.
Singleton is also passed away, right?
I know he's passed away, but I need to correct myself on something. Okay, yeah, never mind. He died in 2019, so
Yeah.
he's off the table anyway. R.I.P. Snowfall. Watch the final season of Snowfall. But let's go to a different director. What do y'all think Jordan Peele could have did with this movie? Because I think this feels like a
God.
Jordan Peele movie that Jordan Peele didn't direct, didn't look at, and was just like the studio was just like, I want a
This
Jordan Peele
this
movie.
sounds like a movie
Let's not
Jordan
pay him.
Peele was like, spitballing at a bar and they overheard him and stole his idea. That's what this
Yeah.
movie feels like. And so one of the things I actually pointed out during the viewing was how the musicality was nowhere close to Get Out's level.
Hmm.
And I tell you what, the music and sound didn't tell the story. We open up and they're playing, some classical music and stuff, and a black guy is getting accosted by a whole bunch of soldiers, and it's taking way too long for some reason. And
That's
then
preach.
the black woman starts running, and after she screams a bunch, but you don't hear nothing. All you hear is the music. And I said, oh, so F what she got to say, huh? And then she had like two more lines, and then they killed her. And then we learned out later that was actually a professor.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And it was I think that was like that level of comparison. Oh, they're treating professors like slaves. That's the problem. Is you are taking a black person and you pigeonholing them into cotton picker, but this woman has been teaching hundreds of minds over her career, thousands of people, and she has been growing in intelligence and knowledge in her community. And you want to pigeonhole her into something like that. That would have been something that now all of these other people that you see here, who are they? Oh yeah, he's a doctor, he pharmacist who spoke out against big pharma, da 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 da. And like they could have gone down the list of people and why they needed to be taken off the table. And I think Jordan Peele really would have delved into that, and then he would have given music to really enhance everything. Because that freedom scene at the end when she was done, what did we get? And I tell you what, when she started going off, if the movie really wanted to go hard, they would have started playing some Black Skinhead. And then but they wasn't ready to go that raw. The movie was trying not to be that raw. And so when she's leaving after everything is said and done, I'm coming home. Not I'm free. Not free at last. I'm coming home. You know what I'm saying? And like there was that taste of freedom was just so fleeting. And I really think that Jordan Peele would have been able to kind of magnify these other things by getting the music in right and honing in on what it really felt like for that character to be free after this horrible excursion.
All right, history. I'm gonna give you a different director. I don't want you to do Jordan Peele. I'm gonna give you a different director who possibly could have done this. Do you think Ava DuVernay could have done this movie better than the two directors?
Hmm. Okay. I'm going to say she could have done a better job. Would it have been a box office hit? I don't think so.
I mean, it
Because the
wasn't
two,
anyway. So
no. I know that definitely, but I'm just saying that I don't think the result would have been too different. Again, I think that like this film is plagued by the idea that Get Out came out right before. But also Ava DuVernay, she just came off of A Wrinkle in Time at the time as well. Selma was like 2 3 years before this as well, from what I remember. So the Selma was too serious of a film, and it was a slow burn of a film. Not saying it was bad, it was a slow burn of a film. I do prefer her documentaries more than I actually prefer her actual films. Um, Wrinkle in
it feels
Time.
like, yeah, it feels like Jordan Peele probably should have done this movie and made it.
Well, I was trying to look up the actual director, the one that did Candyman from 2020. I think that
Nia
she could.
DaCosta, I think she could have done a good job too.
I'm going to say that's what I was going to say. I think that she would have did a fantastic job. I feel like
And
you could have still had those strong moments where you implemented like, oh, that this person's intelligent, that person's intelligent, but then also kind of made a catalyst out of the idea that these intelligence don't mean shit when you're trying to survive in a situation where you're being brutally trying to survive. That makes sense what I'm saying? You look like you're saying no. All right,
You
so
can
let me
always
clarify.
your intelligence will help you make the most out of a situation.
You gotta, you gotta, you can hone in. And I'm not saying. I guess what I'm saying is that like you can say as many poetic and like sweet words that you can in front of a crowd, but how is that going to like translate over to the fact of like I'm trying to get away from a bunch of raging ass fucking crackers in this case, right? With a
are you
bunch of guns.
comparing this to say academic knowledge as opposed to street level knowledge? Is
Yes,
that the comparison
yes,
that you're trying to make?
yes, yes,
Whereas a person could survive in the world of academia, but is not there's those skills aren't necessarily transferable to life on the street and vice versa,
yes,
otherwise known as The Wire season 3 and What Happens with Stringer Bell. That's a
yes.
perfect
That
example.
But
could
that's
have been that point, Jason, could have really been highlighted in that cabin scene with the new girl. You know what I'm? That would have been the
correct.
time to talk about it, and she could have been like, "Look, I'm a doctor or whatever." And she'd be like, "Yeah, and I sell rocks on the corner or whatever, and I'm still here because I'm pretty and I'm
Yeah,
pregnant. What you gonna do about it?" You know, like that? That could have been something, but that character
yeah,
was so underwritten. She was just there for a little time. But
And
yeah,
with
she was there to
that one
die.
scene, we really could have dove into those
yeah,
into that subject.
yeah,
So it's just a lot of opportunity, and I really feel like if they come back with a director's cut or something, there's a lot of good bones in this movie. It's just not a lot of meat.
Fair point.
yeah.
So, really quickly before we go into some of the box office details and then into our ratings, Ryan Coogler for director. Thumbs up, thumbs down. Do you think he could have did? Do
No,
you
I
think
don't
he
think
could
that
have?
this falls in his category.
I don't see why not.
I don't think that this falls in this category. I think
I'm
that
not worried
if
about
you,
categories though. He could have took the movie and made the movie better than this.
I don't think this falls in this category.
What does that even mean? You don't think he could do this
I
kind of
do think
movie?
that Fruitvale Station did a good job. I think that like he encapsulated a lot. This is a slave movie. I don't think that he would encapsulate this as well. I don't think that he would capture all of it. I don't think that this would have been his
So you
his.
saying he wasn't the right
He wouldn't have been
did
the right director for this. No,
the right chef for this? Like
no.
you wanted sushi and this nigga is a barbecue chef, doesn't
Hmm.
really know about that. That's what yours.
Yes,
I I'd
you
be
got to keep it
interested.
modern. You got to keep it modern as fuck. And I feel like
I
that's what
would
he does
be
really good at.
personally, I would be interested to see what he would be able to do with this type of movie, but I'm glad he kind of sticks to more modern stuff. So I think he's got the skills to do it though. So I think he would have made the movie better because again, I the dudes who direct this movie, God bless them, they're a nice mixed race couple. Gerard is black, Christopher is white. They have a modern, beautiful homosexual relationship. It's beautiful. They did not do a good job in this movie. It was not.
Yes.
It was not done well. So much
Yes.
so. Now, the thing about
Oh,
this movie and the thing about if you remember at the very beginning, I said the year that this movie came out, 2020, and I almost on the box office tip, I almost want to give the movie a pass because 2020 is a fucked year for the box office. Like it is. Let's be honest. Like in fact, let's roll things back to 2020 in films and let's just roll things back to give you an idea of what the fuck we were doing in 2020 as far as American films. My nigga, the do y'all know what the highest grossing movie of 2020 was?
Not Tiger King, because that wasn't a movie.
Do
Uh,
y'all let's check,
was
just
it the
take a
hunt?
guess.
It would have been a hunt, right?
the
My
Matrix
guy,
4? No.
my guy. Oh, Matrix 4 didn't make money, and that gives me hope for humanity. The highest grossing film, the highest grossing film of 2020. And let me go to the domestic box office because the world, who gives a fuck? China was wilding.
Was it
Like, let's be
what?
honest. China was wilding. Like China was just like,
What?
fuck that. Like we we
Yeah.
we keeping the money going. But let's go by country. American films 2020. Bam. Highest grossing domestic film of 2020 was Bad Boys for Life. And that's because that movie
Came
came
out
back. Yes, the third Bad Boys movie. And that's because that movie came out in January.
to say.
Worldwide, yes, worldwide, it was the fourth highest grossing film of the year. And the other movies were released in Japan and they released in China. So that's kind of why. But yeah, Bad Boys for Life, highest grossing domestic movie of 2020. So yeah, things were fucked. Like let's just be honest. That's kind of an excuse, but the movie is also just poorly made. The movie was made on a budget of $10 million. It made a little under 7 million. Now it did do pretty well in its debut weekend on video on demand. It was number one rented across a lot of these sites, so Fandango, Amazon Prime, Google Play, got a lot of got a lot on there. It was the sixth most popular um, video on demand movie during the pandemic period of 2020. However, the critical reception of the movie, not so well. One reception said that the movie is artful and provocative, but it can't follow through on its own concept. And honestly, I don't want to read any more of those comments because I feel that's the general attitude that all three of us have. It's a good concept, but poor follow through. The movie did not make it. It did not make money. Was not very well received. Currently holds a 30% on Rotten Tomatoes. It has no real legacy. Now, Janelle Monae did win a couple of awards. She was, of course, nominated for the NAACP Image Award as well as Gabori, but she won from the Women's Film Critics Awards. She actually got an award for Best Female Action Hero and Courage in Acting. Now, I'll say this to give her credit. Her performance, I do think, is a strong point of the movie. Not a very well written character, but I do think credit to her. And anytime great with the silent G is done in film, I always got to give a shout out to anybody who's willing to do that because that shit can be traumatic. But we are at the any final thoughts on the movie before we get into our ratings? Starting with you, JT.
Ultimately, this movie falls flat in a lot of ways. And I think one of the first and foremost ways it falls flat is on what message it's trying to tell. It don't really know what it's trying to say. And even that little blurb of Janelle Monae's Veronica on TV when she watched herself, with her family, it didn't feel like what she had to say was something that needed to be said. Oh yeah, we're coming. That's pretty much was the gist of it. And even though she was talking about a professor of eugenics, there was no attacking of the mindset of the Confederacy. because we are still dealing with the Confederacy today, and their thoughts are still just as wrong now, if not worse, than they were previously. Because if you have not looked in your life and gotten rid of this Confederacy and purposely gone in and tried to root it out, that stuff is still hanging in a lot of your family's closet. So, we got to deal with it in different ways. White people got to deal with it different ways than black people. We have to come together and work on it together as a community and country. And none of these grandiose ideas were presented. Nothing talking about, the actual evils of the Confederacy, the racist agenda of eugenics and IQ tests. None of these things are actually said. And at the end of the day, all we get is, like white people bad, and they kidnap black people to enslave them once again, because that's how they feel life should be. And that just didn't, I don't think like that was evil enough. You got to be really sick and really twisted and really think that your way of life is how the country should be. And that was not put through enough. And I think it needed to be, because that was honestly a kind of an urgent, issue that we got to deal with now. So some lost opportunities there, but overall, as a story, I think you could rattle off the concept of the story and you would get somebody really interested. Ooh, that sounds like a good movie. Yeah, but don't watch it. It's like you don't want you don't want to follow up.
Yeah.
History, any final thoughts?
I feel like this movie is not plagued not because of just only bad writing, but lack of villain. I think that the villain was designed to be the time and the aspect of slavery. You didn't have a true antagonist being defined. And I wish that they would have did with Senator Denton. I would, because you've seen his picture being this like graffiti or whatever poster on the brick wall in the middle of them driving in the CBD area again of New Orleans, and not too far from Canal Street and shit like that. I wish that you would have heard some of his politics, his policies, and I think that this movie would have been more impactful if you would have had this guy come off as a Democrat or a liberal, and then come to find out he owns this plantation. I think that it would have hit different. That's where Get Out kind of like the fruit was low hanging after Get Out. You could have had liberals be recognized sometimes for their racist shit, and so you could have had these people, this film, have a true understanding why this guy Denton was scary, why the daughter was like so frustrated and wanted to take over the actual plantation because of her dad's reckless decisions. Other than the fact of like you got this poetic man, but then all of a sudden he's just like, "Well, I'm sorry that I have to brand you and do this. Now clean yourself up and make me some chicken tomorrow." Like that, if that's the worst thing that
and then rapes her twice.
and then rapes her
Which,
twice.
dog, I'm gonna be honest with you. You hit the nail on the head with the. It really does feel like we should have did Get Out at some point, because
Yeah,
it's a like it feels good. Also, yeah, I'm 100% with you. The villain is lacking, and I named off the triad of great white racist actors.
yeah,
They would have killed, dog. Michael Rooker would have killed this. Like he would have killed this. To be quite
yeah.
honest with you, he would have
Uh,
been like, oh, that cracker is racist. Like honestly, like none of the guys
mhm.
were good. Like Jasper was terrible. That could have been Walton Goggins. Right. Anyway,
Yeah.
the movie itself, it's about time that it's that time of the week. We give out our ratings for the movie. As you guys
Yes.
know, we have a 5-tier rating system: winner, edger, slumper, sleeper, and dumpster. So for 2020's Antebellum, JT the voice, what say you give this movie?
Slumper. I mean, honestly, that's high praise, because it was sleeper territory till the finale.
Yeah, I feel that.
But
Uh,
Janelle Monae went hard, so I give her a little credit. But she got by with a little help from her friends.
yeah. Mr. History Williams, what say you give this movie?
Um, The first watch, I would have gave it a mid edger. I think the second watch kind of fucks it up a little bit more because I had to read more into it for the review. And I would say absolutely, if this is the first time that you watch this film, this definitely is an edger. When you're actually trying to like definitely do some background and analyzing on it, definitely does fall into that slumper. I don't think it's a sleeper. I don't think it's a dumpster. I can see where it can fall a lot of times into that area. But I'm going to say this: the story itself, what was supposed to happen, the idea definitely makes it feel like it should have been a slumper. Janelle Monae's performance carried. I also want to say the burn shit scene where you had this guy had to go and try to clean up the ashes on it. You could see that he acted his ass off on that. But you can see that this film also had a lot of people who tried to overact in the scenes. I know that you guys like Dawn's character. I didn't like her character because I felt like there was times that she was just rude when she wasn't supposed to be rude. I'm not saying that there's not those type of people out there, but I'm just saying that like there was a time that she was talking to like her I guess her coordinator or whatever like that, the Asian lady during the convention, and she was just like rude. And, I know I'm rude, and she admitted I'm rude. I'm going to take her away, but I'm going to still take her away. And then it took her away, and it was just kind of like, nah, that's the person that makes me money. And I was expecting Janelle Monae to say that, and she did not say any of those things. I felt like Dawn's characters at some points was out of control. If Dawn was a little bit more attentive, we would have never had a kidnap Janelle Monae.
Yeah, for me, this movie it borderlines slumper, sleeper.
It's
Just
right on
look.
that line.
You
Yeah,
see that gray area, the little
yeah,
peak that I'm giving you. That's Janelle Monae in the finale, because
yeah,
like that's what would almost make me open my eye up just a little bit and not be slumping off and going to
yeah.
sleep. But for me, in my opinion, uh, for a movie to have a topic and a subject like this, better hands at the director, better hands
Agreed.
as writers were needed and could have elevated this movie and made it actually something worthwhile that we could remember. But instead, I honestly feel this movie is going to kind of go by the wayside, and deservedly so. It hasn't earned a place in pop culture, it hasn't earned a place in the culture. It's a movie that happened. And Janelle Janelle Monae, she was great in Glass Onion, so she clearly has talent as an actress. We can just keep it moving on this movie. But that's gonna do it for the review of Antebellum. JT is
Yeah.
picking our movie for next week, and we will find out what that is. We'll share that on the socials. But until then, stay happy, stay blessed, and I guess pay attention to the car that you're getting in for an Uber, because if she had, kind of looked for signs that this was an Uber, the movie wouldn't have happened. But history, go ahead and send us home and then send it to JT.
No, I'm saying if Dawn was paying attention and not partying up with the dude
She
that
should
was
have
in
been
car.
paying attention. Like, you can't put all of that on Dawn.
Oh
I'm
no,
getting
no,
in the
no, no,
car.
no, no! I'm
I don't
saying
even
though,
know
like
where the fuck I'm
like while
going.
she was attacked, I mean that movie couldn't have happened if you would have had three people not partying up in the car right next to her as well, because she was. No, but I'm just saying, like a lot of people, there was a lot of reasons why this movie should not have happened. If she would have simply just left the fucking hotel, when she realized those people were rude at service, then honestly, this movie probably would have never happened. But beyond that, it's agreed. This movie's a slumper. I definitely I fall in line with y'all too on this one. With that, man, you can definitely check out our podcast on Spotify and wherever you get your audio acoustical experiences from. So make sure you check us out on all those platforms. You can also check us out on YouTube 10:15 to 12:15 on every Thursday night. 7:15 to what 10:15. I'm sorry, 7:15 to 9:15 on Pacific time as well. With that, we after hearing about a stressful movie like this one, or hearing about people getting smacked about a year ago, and now they finally coming out about their issues. We sometimes need to actually just find a way to decompress throughout the times and all these struggles and these stressful days. Winter storms decide to come up on you after giving you about 50 to 60 degree weather for the last 2 days. And sometimes just life just decides to just throw that little bit of a caveat inside your day. So with that, we go and we turn ourselves to the voice of reason to be able to actually help us feel like we got to decompress and feel better about our week and end our week the right way. JT, what is our voice of reason this week?
I'm going to start off with a quote. This quote is, "There are no sharp rocks in an old stream." One of the biggest contrasts in the movie Antebellum that we got to enjoy this week is the difference in how white people and black people were treated in this particular film. And when I first moved to this area, I had a very unique experience with somebody who, after a while, just admitted he was just simply scared of black people. He wasn't comfortable around them. And I think that fear is what gives way to a lot of separation in our country. And so in order to get over that, you need some exposure therapy. And if you can get to a place and you can sit there and you can just let the waters wash over you, you will find that there are not nearly as many sharp rocks in the black community as you thought. So I want to encourage you to go out there, have dinner with somebody who don't look like you, and let's make sure something like the Confederacy never happens in America again through our unity. Thanks for tuning in.